Welcome to Thin Fat Line, the podcast that explores the line between loving yourself just as you are and the unhealthy and toxic things we do and say, sometimes in the name of health. Hosted by Whitney Andrews, a girl who has been coming to terms with her own journey of health and self-love for as long as she can remember. Warning, the following conversations may be triggering and may discuss sensitive topics. Please move forward as you feel comfortable. The goal of this podcast is to create a conversation and community of support and understanding. Welcome to Thin Fat Line.
Good morning, everybody. This is Whitney Andrews with Thin Fat Line Podcast. I feel like I need to develop an entry that's like, good morning, Vietnam, but like nobody can recreate that like Robin Williams. So I am here. I am recording. Today we are talking about I'm going to give you all a month update, post-gastric sleeve, post-VSG, and kind of the things that I feel like I did really well and the things that I was not prepared for. So I'm excited to be here. These are probably the top questions I've gotten. If you have any other questions on the gastric sleeve or the surgery I had, please drop them in the comments or slide into my DMs in a very non-creepy way. Ask me. I am happy to answer them. You can also email me at hi@whitneyandrus.com. And I am happy to answer any questions. I want to be an open book. I want this to be something that I talk about in a way that is supportive and helpful, and also recognizing that it's not the journey for everybody. So if you have any questions about what led me here, the motivations, maybe something I haven't answered, please let me know. I'm adjusting real quick because my earrings are like stabbing me. There we go. Who knows if that even helped, but we'll find out. But if you're not following me, if you haven't hit that subscribe button, trigger warning, explicit language, what the fuck are you doing? You have to hit subscribe. You gotta go follow me. I'm entertaining. I was just talking to somebody about how I can do some entertaining. I have an Enneagram 7 wing in me, which means I'm here for your entertainment. It's the bread and circus, bitches. Here to feed, here to entertain. And I can hair flip sometimes if I'm like really into it. But you can subscribe, hit that subscribe button. Follow me on Instagram at Thin Fat Line. You can follow me personally at Whit Andrus. On Facebook, it is Thin Fat Line with Whitney. And on TikTok, it is at Whit, W-H-I-T, Talk, T-O-K, Andrus, A-N-D-R-U-S. I think that's it. Just search me, y'all. Like, I'm there. I'm not that hard to find. But yeah, so welcome. I appreciate everybody that's here. I appreciate all the questions you've submitted, all the questions you've asked me. It has been really fun. So I'm hoping that I get to them. So for those of you that don't know, on December 27th, 2021, which feels weird that was a different year, I had the vertical sleeve gastrectomy. I don't know, VSG, also known as the sleeve, which is essentially where they cut like a giant chunk of your stomach out. And I did not come to that decision lightly. I am not going to get into all the reasons that I decided to have the surgery or what my motivations were, but I got there on purpose. You can listen to the episode and it's like why I got VSG or my motivations on it. If you're really curious, if you haven't listened, go listen to that. So I'm not going to get into that, but I got there on purpose and I was so nervous. So I do have to say that leading up to it, so we're going to talk about the 2 weeks prior, and because when I made that motivation, it was day one of like a liquid diet, and then I was having it 2 weeks later. And when I tell you that I thought the hardest part of that 2 weeks would be the liquid, because you go on this liquid diet because it shrinks the liver, because the liver, how it sits, your stomach, so if you're watching this on video, I'm kind of demonstrating on my stomach. Your stomach is kind of like right here, I think, and your liver sits on top of it, and it can get fatty and it can cover it. And so really to make the surgery like less complicated, they want you to kind of shrink your liver and stuff like that. So you go on a liquid diet. It's all great, grand, and wonderful. I thought that would be the hardest part of it. I was wrong. The hardest part of it for me was this extreme anxiety that I was not going to wake up from anesthesia. I had too much life to live to not wake up from anesthesia. When I tell you, I was so nervous. And so my husband was out of town and he's like, hey, how are you doing? He was checking on me. The sweet, kind man that he is was sending me mail like, hey, just in case you need like a cheer team. Like he was sending me letters in the mail from the road. Like, y'all find yourself a Ben. He's amazing. But I was so anxious to the point that I called my lawyer to make sure that the will and everything was up to date. Like, y'all, I was stressed. And so I was telling my husband that I was stressed about this. And I was like, I'm just so scared that I'm not going to wake up. To which, keep in mind, I just talked about how sweet he was. He said, yeah, that can happen. What? You're not allowed to tell me, yeah, that can happen. I was like, I am so glad I'm a fairly confident person because that was mean. Like, why would you tell me that? He goes, no. I meant like anxiety can happen, not like you not waking up could happen. And I was like, stop while you're ahead. You're just like taking the shovel and digging. My anxiety was high. It felt like somebody was like gripping my sternum and like I was super nervous. The hardest part, I was so stressed. So I remember going in and, you know, I'm going to talk about stuff that like, it's funny that the only person in here is a guy with me. So he's going to be like, this is an episode that like, I probably didn't need to be sitting in on, but I'm just going to like go. So the day that like I wake up for the surgery, it's 4 a.m. I'm the first person that's going to be in there. And I had a visitor that was coming with me to surgery. My aunt Flo decided to come with me to surgery. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? And it was fine. Everything was good. And I get there. And so now I'm like, I'm cramping. I'm stressed. My anxiety is like out the roof. You know, maybe that's why my anxiety has been so high. And they give me, thank God, they finally give you the Versed, which is like, you know, your tequila shot in anesthesia world. And I don't really remember much after that, but I do remember the last thing I told my husband before I went into surgery. I told him he had to be nice to our kid. You know, my husband's not mean to her. And I remember thinking the entire time that they were like placing me on the table, like, that's not what I meant to say. That's not what I meant to say. But I was terrified that I wasn't going to wake up. So I wake up, I'm in the recovery, and I look at the recovery nurse and I said, did I wake up or is this some weird version of hell? And she's like, you're awake. And I'm like, great. Well, my stomach hurts. Because I just, keep in mind, had like a lot of it cut out of me, like changed my entire anatomy. And she laughed. She's like, I bet so. I was like, and these people are annoying around me. Y'all, they were just out of surgery. And I'm like, they're whiny. They need to get over themselves. What do I need to do to get into a new room? She's like, you have to breathe. You know, they give you that thing that I forget what it's called, but you like breathe into it. It measures like, I guess your lung capacity or something. It needs to get to here. And I was like, give it to me. Like I was ready. And I went like, and just the biggest, to the point that I like coughed after. It was like the bronchitis and nobody had time for that, right? Like it was like, who is that? Sweet Baby Jones or somebody. But so I got into my private room and then I fell back asleep. And when I woke up, that sweet, sweet husband of mine was there. And I was like, I didn't mean that you're mean to her. It's just that I know that we can both be hard on her and we temper each other. You know, like we have high expectations. We're high expectation people. Please don't delve into our parenting, like, or my parenting. He's a great parent. But it was like, if nobody's there to kind of like balance out the other, like you have to like be patient, you know, because I'm the emotional one in the thing and the empathetic one. And he's very much the like, okay, but let's be practical, you know? And so if there's only one side of it, that's what I meant. I told him, I felt so bad that that's the last thing I told him. But because he would have always been wondering, had I not woken up? But I woke up, and so that's great. While I was in the hospital, I think I had these expectations that one, I was going to get work done. I don't know if y'all remember, I made a podcast. I had brought my computer up there. I had brought like the tiny mic. I was going to like report to y'all from the hospital bed. This bitch slept a lot. And I was really nauseous. And if you think hospital food tastes awful anyways, try eating like hospital broth and Jello. Like seriously, like I don't know where they get it from. It was awful. But I just wanted ice. That's all I wanted. My throat hurt from like having the thing down my throat. And it was just, I was so happy to get out of there because I was like, I have like really good broth at my house, like, and good Jello. My watch is like vibrating up a storm. And so I got out of there and I went home and I slept some more. And I got up and they were like, you know, I can remember after I had my child and I ended up having a C-section, they're like, you need to get up and move. It'll make you feel better. And you just want to like look at people and be like, sit down. be quiet. I will take care of it. And so I was like, I need to move around. I need to do this. My husband stayed home and then he had to fly out. So I decided that I still had a kid to entertain and that we would go for a walk. So I took her to the zoo 4 days out. And I walked. I walked a lot because everybody was telling me to walk. That was a big mistake. I was so sore and so exhausted. And you can't eat or drink enough to really replace like all that energy that you're expending. So those are the things I would have done different. I would have walked in a more reasonable fashion. I would not have tried to do the zoo a couple times. But you live, you learn. But from there, really, I thought maybe it'd be the honeymoon period of it all, which is why I kind of haven't done an update because I didn't want to be like, everything was great. But I think everything was great for a couple of reasons. And so this is kind of what I want to tell you. If this is something you've decided you're going to have it or you're considering, you've got to be prepared mentally. And I highly, highly, highly recommend, even if your doctor doesn't require it, which I think most do, to work and ask all the questions of a nutrition coach, a dietitian, whatever it is. I had a dietitian that, was required by the doctor, but also my insurance. But I also had a nutrition coach. I realized that not everybody has that privilege to be able to do that. But I worked with Arnold Nutrition Coaching prior because at the time I wasn't positive that this was going to be the route I was going to take. Once I got there, I was positive. I got there on purpose. I knew. But the time that I spent with Kylie Arnold of Arnold Nutrition Coaching was invaluable after because you have a reduced capacity size in your stomach. And I was very aware that I wanted to get the nutrient dense foods in. I wanted to get my protein count in. I wanted to do this. And I did. And I don't know that I would have been prepared to do that. I mean, it's easy concepts, but let's be honest, we're humans and we like to overcomplicate everything. So I was talking about Arnold Nutrition Coaching. That seriously prepared me for my energy levels were great. Everything was great. I was really hyper aware of really feeding my body food for fuel and having fun with it. I have had more fun cooking because I cook in these tiny little portions. And I'm not afraid to experiment with different flavors because I'm not going to throw away a whole meal. I'm throwing away 4 ounces of food, right? It's not a big deal. So I've had so much fun with it. And it's been especially exploring different protein sources and everything like that. Ricotta cheese is definitely one of my favorite kind of undervalued protein sources or underrated protein sources is what I was going to say. I've always been a bean girl. As I talked about in the last episode, when Sir Mix-a-Lot said red beans and rice didn't miss her, he was talking about me. Love red beans. I can make, also, I'm going to say this and I'm just going to put it on record, the best red beans you've ever had. I'm really good at it. But I mean, all of those things, I was prepared for it. So I highly recommend if this is something that you are considering, that you prepare yourself with fun foods, you experiment with different protein sources, you really kind of, that you're going to be eating kind of soft foods for a little bit after. So go ahead and start experimenting with stuff like that. How do you like your beans? What do you want to do? One of the things that was recommended to me is, unflavored protein. I would add that to soups that I already love. Broccoli and cheese soup, it's one of my favorites. And I would just add unflavored protein to it. And that would kind of amplify it and make sure that I got in that right amount of protein. I didn't want to lose my hair. That's a side effect that could come. But more than anything, my energy levels stayed up. I, after surgery, have started working with Arnold Nutrition Coaching again. So I paused a little bit, but I started working with them again. And you'll have follow-up visits with a dietitian, but I wanted something that was more accountable week after week. Because as I talked about in the last podcast, one of the bravest things that you can do is ask for help. And I knew that right now I didn't want to be kind of going through this alone. And I knew what I needed, and I have been exploring what I needed to be successful. And really what I need to be successful is to realize that I don't know everything and I'm not a professional at everything and I'm not an expert at everything. And so let me hire the experts. I fully recognize I have the privilege to do that. There's so much information online and I am happy to direct you to simple places that I have found are super helpful because the internet is the wild, wild west and the Netflix of options when it comes to health and wellness. So definitely keep it simple. I was super glad that I did that. The other thing that I did that I think super duper helped in everything was I worked in therapy for a long time. I started in therapy a long time ago as I've mentioned before, like my size, my health, everything was a part of it, but there was a whole bunch of other things too. I really had an in-depth conversation with my therapist about what I was kind of about to do. I mean, this is a major anatomy change, and you think, oh, it's just my like physical anatomy. It's not a big deal. It will mess with your brain. One of the things I wasn't expecting is that you don't really sleep well after, like once the anesthesia wears off, because I slept for probably a solid 3 days then. Once the anesthesia wore off, I didn't expect kind of like the weird sleep patterns after. And that can really mess with like your brain and stuff. And also like, how do I talk about this with my kids? I've really worked hard in my house. Like we don't talk about diets. I don't want them to constantly see their mom on a diet and stuff. How do I talk about the surgery that I just got in a way that's both honest and transparent, but also isn't more than I have a 6-year-old and a 15-year-old in a way that this is not about what my body looks like. And I didn't have this major anatomy change just because I wanted to be a smaller size in jeans, but really kind of like from the perspective of like, I feel like this is the best decision that I can make for my health and to make me my best self. And so that was stuff that I discussed with them. So my 6-year-old refers to the surgery. She's like, Mom, when your dots heal, because it's a laparoscopic, so I have like little like incision dots. When your dots heal, can we do this? Or like, will you be able to do this? Can you pick me up? Because I couldn't pick her up at first. And she's 6 and she's long and lanky and big and amazing, and she gives the best hugs. And one of my favorite things is to like pick her up because she'll wrap like her whole body around you, and I couldn't do that for a hot second. And so, but we talked about it from the perspective of dots, and she asked me like, why do you have the dots? Why'd you do that? And I said, it was for my own health and I wanted to be healthier. I feel like this is the best option for me to be around for a long time. My 15-year-old, it was kind of like a mix of like different conversations. There wasn't one specific conversation. It was more answering questions when they had them than it was, let me like sit you down and give you this whole, like, this is what's about to go on. Everybody like has to make that decision for themselves. But I think really my point in that is like my entire family was involved in this decision. Not in the decision. My entire family was involved in the process, which brings me to who should be involved in your decision. The only person that really got to make the decision was myself, and I got there on purpose, but I involved my partner in it, my husband in it. He came to the first initial appointment. He came to almost all the dietitian appointments, and he came to when it was time to go, when I got all my blood work, when they kind of made sure everything worked. And he came in when they were describing like, look, this is what you have to do. And it was at that appointment that he looked at me and he's like, I don't think I realized how important it was for you to be prepared, because if you don't do something right, you can seriously do some damage. And he is right on the money. And that's why I wanted him to be a part of it, so he could see this is a big deal and it's going to take a little bit of time and to kind of figure out all the ins and outs. So I highly, highly recommend. I didn't actually tell anybody that I was having the surgery until I got there, and I was 100% sure it was my decision. And I didn't make it public until this podcast. And I don't know that had it not been for what I wanted to do on Thin Fat Line and that level of transparency about my own health and tell the story of that. And, my hope is that like, maybe there's something that you relate to and you're like, I'm not so alone in this, But I made sure that I didn't involve the public in this. I didn't go asking opinions. I didn't join support groups. And if that's what you need to do, then do it. I wasn't in Facebook communities, because if we learn anything from social media can be the best place to get support, or it can be the worst. And I have found, for me, it is usually the latter. It is usually more unhelpful than helpful. And it's just not something that served me. So the decision was made, and it was made with me, and it was made with my partner, who I knew that I had to have him supportive of. We might be eating a little different, or like when we went out to eat, like even to this day, like we live in Louisiana, plus my husband and I's like thing is like food, and we have fun with it and we celebrate. And I love the experience of food and eating out. That's fun to me. And I love that. And I want to keep doing that. But if we go someplace, then we're going to split. And we might be splitting stuff that wouldn't be normal stuff we'd split. Like I'm not going to go get like pork chops and gravy right now or maybe ever. But that was something like I needed him to be on board. So if you're considering this, make sure you have a good support system or a partner or somebody and you're involving them in the process, because the process of actually getting there is one thing. And the process of like kind of the other side is the rest of your life. And you want to make sure that everybody's on board. The other thing that I'm so glad that I did is I started moving almost immediately. Still do not do the zoo day 4. That was a bad idea. But I had a really honest conversation, and you met her on a previous podcast with Jada. And I walked in for the first time on Monday, and I talked to my nutrition and I talked to Jada, and they're like, make sure you do this, make sure you do that. I was struggling with hydration. We needed to add a few electrolytes into my water to make it more purposeful. Making sure that I was kind of right on the money with the vitamins, the supplements, stuff like that I definitely wasn't getting from food. And I walked into what is called a lift class, which is my favorite because I always pride myself on being strong. I have zero endurance. Like, don't ask me to run unless somebody's like chasing me. And even then I might just be like, you win. Like, I give up. But I like to be strong, and I was terrified to have the surgery and lose all this strength. So they like prepped me for it, like this is what you need to do, and you need to focus on this, and you're going to be fine. And I walked into that lift class terrified, but I was really transparent with the person leading it and with who I worked out with in the community I did. And when I tell you that, one, I had nothing to worry about. I lifted, my weights dropped a little bit as far as how much I could lift, but that's to be expected. I haven't actually walked into a gym in 2 months because I was nothing but liquids and wanted to keep myself healthy. And then I wanted to wait until everything healed up properly. So I waited a month after surgery, but I had been walking and stuff. And it was amazing. But I always kind of had that date in mind and that plan for when I started moving my body in the way that I wanted to, in the like that honored my body for what it did. So I definitely say, if this is something you're considering, like, find your community, even if go walk around the track. I told somebody the other day, I was like, instead of like us going to get coffee, which is funny because I have a coffee in front of me right here, that it's also Fairlife vanilla protein. I get nothing from this plug. Tastes like a melted Chick-fil-A. Again, nothing for that plug. You're welcome, Chick-fil-A, because they would definitely be paying for a sponsorship on this podcast right now. Fairlife vanilla protein. It's the pre-made. It's the only pre-made that I like. And as far as ingredients, it's the cleanest one that I have found that tastes good. Tastes like a melted Chick-fil-A ice cream. And it's so good. So I get 2 shots of decaf espresso because caffeine can actually work against your hydration, and I ain't trying to do that. And then I get it over ice, and then I dump that Fairlife in it. It is the best vanilla latte you will drink. Today I wanted a mocha one, so I had them add a little bit of sugar-free chocolate syrup to it. It's so good. Find what you love and like lean into it, But I think that's the other thing. Like, try a bunch of things, get with people. What do you like? What do you not like? I had a friend that came to me after, and she's like, I don't know. And everything that I didn't like, I was like, look, full disclosure, these are the things I just wanted a variety of stuff when I was on liquid. I'm not really a huge fan of these, not because they taste bad. They're just not for me. And I'm not here to like be miserable during this process. And so she's like, oh my gosh, thank you. Because like you can spend a whole lot of money trying a bunch of different things. But that was probably something that unflavored protein was something that I'm 100% so glad I had. And then also, and you can see these, if you follow me at Wit Andress, I kind of post some of my food. I would prep food and go ahead and prep it in the little containers. That way I could just grab it as I went. So protein puddings, I didn't like it when I mixed it with the pre-made drinks. I know people did that. What I liked is just go ahead and getting that regular old moo juice and adding it to my like sugar-free Jello pudding, which is not clean, as I was just talking about clean food. But then I would add the unflavored protein, like 2 scoops. And so that would do it. And I'd like make it different ways. I just get basic vanilla protein drinks, and then I can make it any flavor that I want to. Those are all things that made life really, really simple for me, and adding in the electrolytes. But I think the number one piece of advice that I can give you, and as far as an update, is that I listen to my body. If my body's telling me to rest, then I rest. If my body's telling me to like go balls to the wall, like I'm going balls hard, like I am getting it done. That's a little throwback to my old kickball team. If you're out there, ball so deep, like I miss you, kickball team. You're still my favorite people in the world. Hashtag fall so hard. But throws me back. I'm going to have to post a clip from like my brother's wedding speech when he had a hashtag symbol and he was talking about me, and he would just every once in a while hold it up and be like, ball so hard. So if you want to know like the camaraderie that happened with that kickball team, it's a little insight. But that goes back to honoring your body for what it does, not what it looks like. Like find things that like you have fun doing, like move your body. There is a lady here. She does myofascial release. She'll be on the podcast. She is Denham Springs royalty, despite being a transplant, Miss Dr. Cheryl Jean. And one of the things that she told me to do when my back was hurting and I was having sciatic, she's like, I'm going to tell you to do this because I think you really will. She's like, but find music that's like kind of has a rhythm, like a lot of times like Native American music, like stuff like that. You know, you hear it meditation, but stuff that you can like move. And she's like, just when you get up in the morning, just move. So like however your body will tell you how to move. Brilliant advice. Move your body. And I think that's really what it comes down to is I think this month has been so good because one, I was prepared prior. I wish I had an answer for the anxiety that I had. Maybe that's just my irrational fear. Like I have of frogs, which we established too. I don't have an answer for that, but I do know that I walked into it on purpose and prepared. And I was prepared because I had the nutrition counseling and I listened and I followed it and I experimented a lot before. I was moving my body and exercising prior. I rested when I was told to rest, and I involved a trusted partner. Mine is my husband, yours may be your best friend. Like there is somebody. And look, if you don't have a support system and you're going to your doctor's appointments, I can't go to your doctor's appointments with you, but I will be there. You can FaceTime me before. You just send me a message and we'll figure out, because I know how important it is to have somebody you can ask questions to and have that support system. I fully accredit the last 30 days being so simple and feeling like such a honeymoon to the fact that I was fully prepared and that I was ready to jump back into those habits and those activities that I love, that truly honored my body and that I wanted to do and I had fun doing. And I've gotten minimal hate. I will talk about the one comment that came to me and I was like, took me off guard, was the first time I was really warned of people are going to kind of like hate on you for having the surgery as like cheating and stuff. And I got one comment one time. And I remember thinking to myself, I have two options right now. I can really defend what I had in a very defensive way, or I can just think of it like this person really wants support. And that's what I did. I was like, I am so excited for you that you found your health and you got healthy in this way. I am super pumped and know that I made the absolute right decision for me. And that was the end all be all conversation. And it made me feel good about myself. And that's what mattered. So be prepared for all the things. People are going to talk. You're going to talk, you're going to think twice, you're going to have moments, but drink your water. That is still the number one piece of advice I can give people in life. Get some sleep and drink some water. Two best things. And, I have a sign by my bed that says sleep solves everything. And I 100% believe it, which is why I say sleep first, drink water second. That's my unprofessional professional advice, but I think I will give updates and I plan on kind of regularly giving updates until nobody cares anymore. But I just really felt like I was prepared. I journaled a lot. If I had questions, get a notebook, write down all your questions that you can ask your providers, you can ask professionals, all that stuff. Make sure you're asking a trusted professional. You are welcome to ask all the questions you want of me. I will always preface this with, I'm not a professional. And I sometimes am like, I cannot answer that for you because I think it would be more dangerous for me to answer it based on how I did it, because I followed the advice of professionals. Anything that I'm telling you is stuff that was given to me and advice that was given to me in my personal journey. And the other thing I'm going to say, and this is for the women, your first visit from Antflow post-surgery is something very, very interesting. So if you're a male and you can't handle this conversation, then by all means turn it off. But we're here. So I'll pause for a second. Okay, we're back. I don't care about you anymore. If you were tired before, I don't think I was prepared for the lack of energy that was going to come that first time back because I couldn't get in enough. The cravings are still there. The cravings for chocolate, the cravings for sugar, the cravings for all of that. And the reason you crave those is because your body needs energy and it's tired and all the things. And I felt like I couldn't replace the fluid fast enough. I couldn't drink enough electrolytes. So I really had to listen. I had to get rest. And I think that's what it comes down to is we've gotten so used to as a society not listening to what our body needs and not even knowing. One of the most shocking things is most Americans will not ever know what true hunger actually feels like. A lot of Americans do. So there is a serious issue with, even in our parish, there's an entire program because so many kids, the only meal they get is within the lunchroom, within the school day. But like so many of us don't even know what hunger feels like. But that's one of the things that I worked on before is like, okay, if I'm craving this or if I'm hungry, what does it actually feel like to be hungry? Because a lot of times we mistake hunger for dehydration. Again, very unprofessional, just things I've learned. So please don't publish this in any Harvard studies or anything. But I think I really focused the last 2 years on figuring out what my cues were. So if I was tired, then rest. And if I wasn't feeling good, then do what I need to do to heal my body. Why was I lacking energy? And so that was the thing is things are going to go a little differently post-surgery. You just majorly changed your anatomy. I don't know that I was fully prepared for that first cycle back. And I was so tired and so on edge. And my child would be like, Mom, I have a question. I'd be like, no, you don't. Go watch Bluey, and I would be just so on edge. And I had to, one, check myself and how I spoke to people, but two, really listen to what I needed and focus on that and give myself that. And what I needed wasn't to hop back in the gym. What I needed wasn't to hop on the scale. What I needed was to put on my favorite pair of sweatpants, which I've had for, quite frankly, a long time because I walked into the hospital to give birth to my daughter in those same sweatpants. I needed to be in those in a t-shirt and curl up with a big old glass of water and some Olivia Benson. That's what I needed. And I gave myself that this weekend and I gave myself grace to do that because it was different and it was a new experience. And I wanted to know okay, how am I going to do it? Maybe there's no way. Maybe I did it perfectly this time and every time it's going to be different. But I think to give yourself grace to kind of say, this is what you need and this is where you are. And if you have questions, to go ask your trusted professionals that. Again, I'm happy to answer any questions. If you want specific things on what I've been eating or food ideas and stuff, I've been kind of sharing those on my personal story because one of the things I don't want is for Thin Fat Line to turn into the VSG story and journey. I'm happy to answer questions and be fully transparent. I think it's super helpful. But if you want recipes, if you want that, I'll be making kind of a couple of blog posts. If you go to whitneyandress.com or thinfatline.com, it all leads to the same place. Also be prepared. Right now, if you see me kind of holding myself on the thing, there's a lot of burps that come with this. So I feel like I have a bubble right here. But I've been sharing kind of some food ideas and stuff like that. I'm happy to answer those. But with that, I hope that's really helpful. I hope that kind of inspires you to get there on purpose. I hope you feel like you're not alone in this journey. And if you do feel alone, please slide into my DMs. I'm here to be I'm happy to be there for you and answer any questions. And if you have any specific questions, hop in there. I'm happy to answer them as long as they're not professional grade questions. But if you need help finding a professional, if you want contact information, let me know. Like I said, the ones that I've mentioned as far as professionals, I mentioned Arnold Nutrition Coaching. Kylie Arnold's amazing. She has several coaches. She coaches based on, one of the things I loved is she simplified nutrition. It's all about balance. And it's just all about really kind of honoring what foods do you like? What do you not like? Why are you eating? Why are you not eating? And asking those questions. Everything's very personal. She's never going to, I don't know. I guess I can't say never. She's never said a caloric thing for me. It's really just about balance. I mentioned movement, which you've already met Jada Bruce of Movement. If you're not local, then obviously you can go to movement. But one of the things I'd recommend is if exercise is really important to you, find a community to do that with. And maybe the community is just meeting the ladies, in the neighborhood and walking around, which is something awesome. And then let's see, I mentioned Dr. Cheryl Jean. She's with Natural Therapeutics. She does myofascial release, which is awesome. She also leads yoga classes, which have been super fun. And she's amazing. So those, I think, are the 3 professionals that I mentioned on this. Plus there was like my team. That's another question I've gotten in Baton Rouge. They're with the Baton Rouge Physicians Group, Dr. Thomas Cook, his nurse, Jessica, 2 amazing people. They were funny. They had to be patient with my husband and I because we made some pretty, morbid jokes. Like, he's like, well, at least I'll be in a hospital of hot nurses in case she doesn't wake up. I mean, those are the kind of things that Dr. Cook was like, this is absolutely like ridiculous, but that's who we are. Sorry, not sorry. And then Whitney Gilmore was my dietitian with Baton Rouge. She's fantastic. I could not be happier to have worked with them. I feel very lucky in the team that I chose, and just the community that I've surrounded myself with. So I think the number one thing I can say is like, make sure you're surrounding with yourself. And this is just like good advice for life. Just surround yourself with people that like level you up and make you feel a part of something, not people who kind of like have an opinion on everything you do. Opinions are like what? Buttholes. Everybody's got one and they're all full of shit. So with that said, I think you are amazing. Remember to honor your body for what it does, not what it looks like. And if you're not subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Follow us on all the social medias. We're here for you. And I look forward to coming to you next time on the Thin Fat Line. All right, guys.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of Thin Fat Line. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. We really appreciate that effort, and we'll catch you in the next episode.